Flat Earth Clues Part 1, The Empty Theater.
Flat Earth, theatres, clues, part. This all sounds very exciting. I'm hoping for some swashbuckling adventure into the depths of flat Earth theory and really getting to grips with what your lot actually has backing them up. The solid proofs and well put together ideas. Looking forward to it and the rest of the series. Perhaps I'll cover them all and maybe you'll convert me into a true believer.
This is part of a series of clues that can help you get your head around both the design of the flat Earth system we live in.
Oh, so you actually meant clues. And is this video a clue because you made it? Seems like more of a thesis. And is clues all you have? Because it's kind of a loose term in this context. I mean, a clue can point in one of many directions. If you find a bloodied rag, it could be pointing to a grisly murder. Or it could be pointing towards Freddie Foxworth having taken a tumble in the woods and done himself a mischief. Clues are the first step. You then have to interpret them and get a bugger ton of them to find the conclusion that they pretty much all point to. This is all assuming that what you mean by clue is what I mean by clue, and if you are going to do an evidence in any way, shape or form at some point.
And who has been involved in the deception to hide it from you?
That's making a big assumption. It's only a deception if you are right, and I would bet dollars to donuts that you ain't even going to come close to doing that. And not just because you're wrong. I mean, that's obviously the be-all and end-all of it, but even if it were genuinely ambiguous, every single flat earth argument I have ever heard fails almost instantly. Usually because the maker of the argument has misunderstood something about reality. But you never know. This video might be the first to break through and come up with something worthwhile. But I wouldn't hold my breath. You'll end up doing a spirit science. You know, because he's blue.
The clue you have to look at is built upon another conspiracy.
Let me guess, you're going to assume that the conspiracy is true too. And is that conspiracy built on another assumption of some other heap of congealed nonsense being true? Maybe you should, I don't know, base your ideas on reality first instead of ideas of raving lunatics that you have decided are correct because reason.
That has been around for decades, namely the space program.
Ugh, it's always the bleeding space program, which to me tends to come off as, well, I couldn't do it, therefore must be fake. Even though so much of the work involved is done from Earth, with tools anyone could get their grubby little mitts on. Even putting satellites into orbit isn't as much of a stretch as it used to be. Hell, there's companies that will do it for you. But of course, someone else doing that would probably easily be controlled by the them, TM. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do it yourself. Although, as per usual, something being possible doesn't mean you want to put the effort in. I mean, what if it proves you wrong? No, speculation will never be falsifiable, especially with my fingers in my ears. Take that, science!
Most of those watching this are aware of the varying theories revolving around NASA.
Theories. Great. I mean, who needs to believe pointless things like facts about asinine concepts like reality when you and your mates can just make up scary stories about the big bad wolf? Well, big bad space agencies. Those are far more exciting than NASA occasionally sends dudes into space. I want to hear that they actually keep a giant creature called Bonk Bonk in their basement who happens to be a whiz at visual effects but only produces work when they electrocute his puppy and don't feed him his daily bucket of fish heads. Right, before you get any ideas, I want to make it completely clear I made that up as a joke and you are not to start telling each other it's actually true. I will be super pissed if I have to start debunking stuff I made up. I would also find it hilarious, but I would be very annoyed.
The Apollo program, the space shuttle, the International Space Station, and so on. The clue itself isn't based on one of these highly debated topics.
It just seems highly debated because it's all you and your boys talk about in your treehouse fort, while making references to sex acts that you have never performed on women who don't exist, like the mental children that you all are. I've said it before, but I'm convinced that there is an inverse correlation to the amount of romantic interaction one has to one's ability to discern fact from fiction.
But the lack of one, more specifically, motion pictures based on actual events.
What? The clue, because proof is a very strong word, but clue is light enough that you can call anything a clue really, and not have to justify it. And you really need that to be the case, because your clue is that there aren't a lot of films based directly on the space program. Is that what you're actually saying? I mean, there are some. I can't imagine you would deny that, but not enough. Like, seriously, for starters, what's enough? Second is, that's asinine. Why don't they just make more if that could possibly be a problem for them? I imagine there's a good reason they don't produce a constant stream of extremely realistic space movies. It would be a movie about constantly checking and double checking lots of very boring and complicated stuff, while not a whole heap of excitement, if any, happens at all. It would be like having a film about a very normal day in the life of a water treatment plant safety inspector. Someone might find it interesting, but it's not exactly going to break box office records, is it?
This, like others in the series, is something you can check out for yourself. Everything you need to reference this is online.
That's true. And as we all know, every single iota of information on the internet is irrefutable fact, especially if it goes against mainstream scientific consensus. Those are the strongest facts of all, because they don't rely on stupid things like knowledge or facts, but feeling like you are just smarter than everybody else. And that sense of knowing things that no one else knows that makes you feel really, really special. Well, special.
To begin, think of all the movies involving space travel that you've seen in your lifetime. You'll start with the obvious: Star Wars, Star Trek, Alien, just to name a few.
No, I'm not a nerd. I just like some of the Star Wars and Aliens movies, and a few of the Star Trek movies, and the Next Generation DS9 Voyager era of the TV shows. Talking of TV shows, Farscape was pretty good, yeah. Oh, and Stargate SG-1. Does that count? Because it does have spaceships in it. Oh, and I really liked the Orville. Firefly, that was good. There was that one, Lex, that was super weird, but again, I liked it. And of course, Battlestar Galactica was great, and I swear I'm not a nerd!
In fact, if you go through your own personal list, you could probably come up with over 100 different off-world movies without breaking much of a sweat.
Ugh, you're probably right. God damn it, I am a nerd. When did that happen? I used to be so cool with my no friends and constantly playing video games. Oh, right, I've always been a dork. Great, good job. At least I don't have a YouTube channel where I constantly talk about science stuff, eh? Oh, God.
That part is easy. For the second group, try to come up with space movies that aren't fantasy-based. You'll get a list that has Red Planet, Gravity, Mission to Mars, 2001, things like that.
Oh, you mean like the less interesting ones? Don't get me wrong, some of them at least are good films, but they don't inspire the same kind of fandoms as the more fantastical ones. It's almost as if the more true to life they are, the less appeal they have in general. I mean, seriously, does anyone even talk about half these movies regularly? Not really. But Star Wars and Star Trek, all the goddamn time. And I know that at least 2 people who heard me say the words Firefly are already commenting about how that show was cancelled too early. I see you there, boyo.
These films will usually take on a not-so-distant future theme, and where we could be down the road. And it's still a pretty good-sized list. These first 2 groups of films are encouraged by the authority.
Oh yeah, of course. I remember that government mandate. Hey guys, make more shooty bang with space films. Me really like it. Jesus Christ, dude. Like, seriously, I haven't seen encouragement to make specific types of films other than the encouragement of them being popular genres or older films that are being remade. Basically, the only things that they tend to make en masse are films that will sell, regardless of their quality. And it's been the same for a long ass time, and probably will continue into the future. Interesting just doesn't get big film publishers excited. Yes, occasionally something interesting will actually show up from them, but simply put, the only reason 90% of films are made is mother flipping money.
because they reinforce the globe model through assumption.
Ugh, that is not how that works. That's like saying the ability to perform magic spells and become invisible through the use of rings is reinforced by the Lord of the Rings. Reality is reinforced by the fact that reality is how it is. In fact, how about this? Where are the pictures of the flat Earth from space? Or whatever it is that stops you from getting into space? What's that? You don't have any? Why is that? Probably 'cause government. Nothing else. Literally just 'cause government.
The entertainment system demands that the globe view and solar system concept is a given. Therefore, the actual worldview must also be true.
No, it doesn't. Entertainment doesn't really care. It just makes the most sense. Hell, for almost all entertainment, it doesn't even matter what shape the Earth is. Most entertainment is set on the surface of the planet. You know, that thing that most people are used to. Any show that doesn't explicitly mention the shape of the world, you could argue, is set on a flat, round, cube, or even banana-shaped Earth. Because it's almost certainly irrelevant to the story being told. But yeah, space stuff needs planets that actually work in a way that conforms to what we know about physics. It reinforces our notion of how the universe works with the physics that we have. I wouldn't mind seeing a sci-fi with flat planets though. I'm sure it could be very interesting. But that wouldn't brainwash me into believing the flat Earth. The same way that Star Trek having Space God doesn't make me think there are any of those.
Or to put it another way, if you're using your suspension of disbelief as you watch a movie like, say, Gravity, then subconsciously you're reinforcing the movie right on top of the real world.
No. That is not how that works. For crying out loud. Don't anybody show this guy a superhero movie, or he'll be throwing himself off the nearest building thinking that people can actually fly. No one but complete idiots think that things are true simply because they are in movies. No one thinks something is true because it's in a movie. Again, unless they are the dumb or a child, which does basically mean the same thing. Stupid kids.
The more of these movies you watch and enjoy, the more the lines blur between what you want to believe and what you actually know.
Are you saying that people actually know that the Earth is flat, but movies trick them into thinking it isn't? Mother of God, man. That is some impressive dumb. Fact, measurements, proof and evidence, those things aren't how we do a science that can create useful things and make the world better. No, it's believing false things because sci-fi movies. That is some epic God tier level dumb. I'm actually impressed.
Watch enough movies about Mars,
and you'll start thinking Mars exists. Mars is actually just a lump of crap on the firmament that got there when Jesus Goddington made the world out of an epic flat round juice that he did. But a little bit got stuck on his finger and it splattered in the sky when he tried to shake it off. It's obvious when you think about it.
and you will be less astonished when NASA announces an actual mission to Mars. Same with the Moon, other solar systems, and so on.
And certainly not because, I don't know. Those things pigging exist! Dude, I'm going to ask this, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Have you not ever heard the phrase, life imitating art? It's a phrase that means that something in a creative work inspired a real life event. And it, of course, does happen from time to time. But it's such an unusual thing that they came up with a term for it. Space is the way it is in sci-fi, space operas and intergalactic fantasy because that's the way it works in real life. The same way most fiction set on Earth has gravity, electromagnetism and whiskey. Those things are just so basic to the human experience that they just don't really change from piece to piece. Especially whiskey. I mean, give me a story where most sciences work in a fundamentally different way and I can accept that. But a world where whiskey doesn't reel. That's just despicable, and anyone who writes such a degenerate piece of fiction should be arrested and shot out of a cannon.
Releasing the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968, right before the actual moon missions, was no accident.
It's almost like, that the space race was an exciting time and space travel was in the cultural zeitgeist. So Stan the Man Kubrick felt inspired to explore ideas that fit into that kind of environment. I mean, did he make The Shining because a group of psychic kids were all about to be attempted murdered by their guardians in hotels? Or A Clockwork Orange because white-suited thugs drinking milk-based cocktails were about to start going around inflicting the ultra-violence on members of the public? I mean, it might have. My brain's a little fuzzy on that one.
It took the greatest director of all time 5 years to make, and several people who saw the theater screenings claimed that many military groups were listed in the credits, only to be removed years later.
Claimed. Sure, let's just say that's accurate. So what? Why wouldn't a film about space have advisors from organisations that likely have space-related programs? And is it literally one person making this claim? You ever consider that maybe they might be mistaken? No, gotta grasp at them straws, otherwise you'll look even sillier believing this nonsense.
But 2001 is just a side note of this clue. For those who really want to dig into Stanley Kubrick's hidden vision, I highly recommend the documentary Room 237.
Think I'll pass. If you had something to say about it, you might have bothered to say something about it, but it seems to be a bit of a waste of time. Much like my content.
Now you are aware of the first two groups of space films. There are those that contain generous amounts of fantasy, and those who try to paint our near future. These two groups are easy to find.
Popular things are easy to get a hold of? Pull the other one. It's got bells on.
The third group is a challenge, and again, that's where things get interesting. The moon missions concluded in 1972. And even though it's still considered the greatest achievement by mankind...
You what? No, it isn't. It's not even related to the distillation process of whiskey, moron.
No fact-based movies were made regarding it until The Right Stuff was released in 1983.
So, your entire premise is that not a lot of entertainment movies were made about it. Forget the fact that countless documentaries and books have been written about it. No, there wasn't enough true-to-life-ish fiction written about it. And this is your first clue, the one that's really there to get its hooks into people and make them think that maybe you have a point. It's so stupid. No thanks. I'm not doing the rest. You can't make me if you can't catch me. Guys, don't forget to panic buy Sick Brand merch. What if you need to let people know that you are handsome, famous and good at the sex in a variety of tasteful colours? Buy as many as you can afford now before this thing that's printed to order runs out. Also, you can use it as toilet paper if needs be. You never know when you're going to need to wipe your arse.